Welcome everyone to your first notes lecture video experience for pre-calculus this year. We're going to go through a couple of little steps, so the video is going to be a little bit longer than it might normally be because I just want to make sure that everyone has all the information that they need to be successful on these assignments. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure that you've got before you get started is make sure that you've got something to take notes on. This could be a notebook, this could be loose leaf. If you have a printer or if you have a tablet that can download PDFs, you can use the guided notes that will look like this that are posted on Google Classroom. So make sure you've got that. Make sure you've got a pencil and a correcting pen as you're working. Make sure if you're using a printout of guided notes, you're using the one that matches up with the video by looking at the objective, which will always be at the top of the video, and then the homework. Now, as a reminder, this will be from Chapter 1, Section 2. That's what this means. Here are all the recommended practice. I don't expect every single student to do every single problem. You're only going to be working on math for half an hour, maybe 35 minutes a day. Some days, honestly, hopefully that's less. Some days that's maybe more like 20, but that might offset days where if you really are struggling with a topic, you might be doing 45. I want it to be evening out around half an hour. You'll notice that the majority of homework is odd, and that means I want you to be checking it in the back of the book, because it's great if you spend 30 minutes on homework, but if you don't actually know if you've got it right or wrong, you might not know if you need to do more practice, or if you need to come in and ask questions, or if you just really don't understand the topic at all, make sure you set up a one-on-one appointment. If you're just stuck on one problem, like let's say you worked through this and 41, everyone was right except for 41 and you can't figure it out. That's totally understandable. In the assignment where you found this, there is a Google form that will ask for homework question nominations. So you can go into that form and just check the boxes of the ones that you got wrong and you're really stuck on. I can't promise I'll do every single problem every single time, but if a couple of you are getting stuck on the same problem, I will make either a written or video guide on how to solve that. So if you're stuck on individual problems, please do that. If you're sort of stuck on a topic in general, that's a time to set up a one-on-one meeting for sure. So if you're all ready to do notes, we're going to get started. It'll always look like this, where you might have some space to take additional notes here, and then you've got the actual space that we'll solve with over here. The entire filled out notes are available on Google Classroom, but I think that for a lot of students it's easier to see it solved. But you have access to both of those, and I will occasionally say, if you want to see this solved, go see the work there to keep the videos from being 30 minutes long. But we're going to just go through these first problems together. We will usually start with our notes section here, and that's going to be a place where we put some vocabulary, maybe some extra things. So in this case, I am looking at this first problem, and it says 2x cubed to the second times 4x to the negative 2. I might put in my notes rules about exponents that I'm not sure of. For this class, the one that I want to make sure that we definitely have mentioned for this problem is what happens with negative exponents. So I'm going to put that formula here. And that's often what you'll see. I'll say something and then some writing will pop up. Sometimes I'll write it in real time, sometimes I'll do it like this, depending on what makes the most sense. What maybe you remember is that x to the negative n, you can turn that into a fraction, which is 1 over x to the positive n. So this would be the formula. One way to help you remember how to do that is if you could think about the line of the negative here and just draw it out into the line of the fraction, and then you'll notice that the x is in the denominator, just like it's going to end up with here. So from there, what we can do is just follow our order of operations once we know and remember this formula. We're going to do our exponents first, and then we'll do our multiplication. So 2x to the third squared. You can either remember your exponent rules, or you can remember that that's 2x to the third times itself, because that's what squared really means. So that's that first part. And for the second term, you can say, oh, well, it's to the negative 2, so that's going to drop down, and that's going to be times 4x squared in the denominator. like this, or you can expand out that denominator into saying that it's 4x times 4x. I sometimes like expanding it out like this because then it's easier to simplify. I know that 2 times 2 will simplify with a 4 in the denominator. 2 of the x's will simplify with 2 of them in the numerator, leaving just 1. And that leaves me with x cubed times x to the first equals times 1 over 4 from the denominator. So we have the x cubed, the x over 4, and that leaves me with x to the 4th over 4. It's my first time making videos quite like this, and I realized I didn't give myself quite enough space. You'll see that hopefully fixed later on, but thankfully in your notes, I will just erase some things to make myself more space. In your notes, you have plenty of space to work with. All right, one extra note I would add in for now problem number 2 is we have a big fraction with a lot of negative exponents. Some of you might remember with negative exponents, that can just flip to the other side of the fraction. So what do I mean by that? I can draw a little guide out. So if I have x to the negative a over y to the negative b, the negatives will cause them to flip, meaning that we've got then y to the positive b in the numerator, because it's come up to the numerator, and then the y comes down to the denominator because it's also negative, like this. And then now we don't have any negative exponents. So in the case of number 2, we have 1, 2, 3 terms with negative exponents. So the first thing that I'm going to do is flip those terms. So the 10 stays by itself, and then the y, so I might even just leave space for the terms that are positive. So the 10, the y here, and then the 25. And then x to the negative 3 goes into the denominator as positive 3. X to the negative 5 goes into the numerator as positive 5. I'm going to erase, hold up. X to the 5, and then y squared was in the denominator, and so it's going to go into the numerator, and we've just moved them across that line of the fraction. So then we have x to the 5th, y squared in the numerator, x to the 3rd in the denominator. So now that they're all positive, we can use our basic exponential rules. The x's will cancel out 3 on each side, leaving x squared in the numerator. 10 over 25 is just a regular fraction. I'll simplify by 5. And then the y terms are both on the same side, so we can just combine them, leaving us with 2 x squared y to the 3rd in the numerator over 5 in the denominator. So hopefully this again feels relatively familiar. If I'm looking at one more set of problems for this topic, the main note here that's different is we've got a bunch of negatives. That we've seen those before. You'll notice that you have an exponent to the 0 power. If we have anything to the 0 power, that equals 1, which is something that my middle schoolers tend not to believe me. Hopefully my pre-calc students will. And again, we're going to follow our order of operations by doing our parentheses first. So I'm going to focus on 3 a to the negative 5th over 9a. And notice I'm not writing b to the 0 because that just means that we multiplied by 1 here. Going to flip the a to the negative 5th into the denominator. So then I have 3 over 9 a to the 6th, because we already had our 1a, and then a to the 5th to the negative 1. Simplify the 3 and the 9 by 3. Now we have 1 in the numerator left because we've crossed everything out, over 3a to the 6th, the negative 1. And remember, negative exponents flip fractions, so then this would become 3a to the 6th over 1 to the 1st, which is just 3a to the 6th. If you want to see some more in-depth steps, there's a little bit more room on the guided notes that are attached here. So work through these homework problems, and then once you've done and checked those, complete the presentation and attach that to this assignment. Please bring any questions you have to our one-on-one meeting if you haven't already, or you can leave them in the comments below. I'll talk to you later. Bye.